of, oh, they didn't deserve to win because the other team made this big mistake, and I immediately responded to that with like, that never goes down well for me. If you have this big clump of, okay, we've got four teams that are tied for this second place and they're all pretty close, even if some plus or minus one game, um, especially if they're playing against that other team, how does the team that won off of a mistake
Yeah.
deserve it less than the team that made the mistake? So you could say, okay, it's not a clean game, and you got kind of gifted that game off of a mistake that wasn't even a forced error, but the other team is capable of making these unforced errors, and I feel like maybe I just hung up on the terminology and then the deserved title.
As soon as you said that, because I could tell, cause I remember like a team fight broke out and you had to like vent away from it for a second. But I just remember in that particular moment, I like jotted down in my head, oh, Kobe wants to hit on this a little bit more down the line. It's just on this word, and for me, it's like you said, right? If you flip the question on people, and when they say, "Oh, X does not deserve," and I know, let's again, Team Liquid, I think is a great example of a team that people are saying this about. If you say Team Liquid doesn't deserve the win, and I would flip it around to you and ask you, does the team like the team they beat, like Immortals, did they deserve to win even more? And you would say no, of course not.
But then people get to the point where they're like, all right, nobody deserves to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the old days when you had the Observer Teemo that was in the game, and then you could just give the win to the Teemo Observer, right? It was one of those things where, like, unfortunately or fortunately, in a competition between two people where you were just waiting till the Nexus goes down, one person will get the win. That's just how sports works across every medium. It doesn't matter how ugly it is, as long as you get the job done. That's like League of Legends is a game where at the end of the day, Cloud9 winning in 23 minutes with a perfect game counts for one win on the score table. Team Liquid winning thanks to a Baron throw and then a base race at 47-minute mark also counts for one win. That is the thing that you just have to accept if you're following the sport, right?
Yeah, you could definitely say I'm of the opinion that Team Liquid is not as strong as their record shows, or I believe a team with a worse record is actually a stronger team because of these factors and the way that they won these games. I'm totally fine with that. But to kind of place judgment on it and say that teams don't deserve things, because you've even had the world champions make unforced errors. G2 for a long time as well made a lot of unforced errors, and people just kind of you laugh it off as like, haha, that goes along with part of the style.
Well, I mean, I think IG is also another really good example of this. Like, even the year they won the World Championship, nobody's watching the IG team and saying, "Oh wow, this was perfect League of Legends." Right? And then anytime you watch the LPL teams, even now, there's always a chaotic element to it that they end up like they create these chaotic situations, and they've been very good about coming out on top of these situations. But it's not anything you would look at and say, "Oh, that's clearly perfect League of Legends." It hasn't been since the LCK days. Where SKT was winning, where you might look at a team and say, oh, they're really winning, quote unquote, perfectly. But I think that's kind of been upended since then in terms of like what does it even mean for quote unquote perfect League of Legends to exist? And people want these like really clean macro games, but you start out the other team, there's no option, there's no room for mistakes or whatever. And I think that one was just not very fun to watch in a lot of cases. And two, it's just not where we are these days, and it's one of these things where I've been thinking about this, and I talked to one of my friends about this quite a bit, is this idea of results-oriented analysis versus actually judging a team. I think this is where the frustration comes in, and this is where I'm kind of curious from you, is it's one thing to look at a team and say, oh, they won, that obviously means they're better, but your job as an analyst is to literally not do that, which is to look at a team and say, okay, I know they won, but my eye test says differently. And I think where a lot of the confusion from fans comes in is, let's say they're a TSM fan and you are critical of their team. A lot of times it can be difficult to agree on what the eye test looks like. And so I'm kind of curious if you can talk a little bit more about when you say, okay, we don't think Team Liquid is maybe as good as a 6-2 record indicate, like what would that actually look like and why is that the case?
I mean, that comes from watching the actual plays and the performances, and unforced errors is definitely a big part of that. Decision making as far as your macro game is gonna be a huge part. One of the critical areas that people have been looking at for TSM as your example, of course, is the mid game. Their early game was exceptional. This last weekend, they had all outer towers down by 17 minutes with Bjergsen on just teleporting topside, using the ultimate, the other side of the map, boom, boom, like creating. You just go down this checklist and you're like, oh my god, this team is so good. And as the game is progressing, you make correct move after correct move after correct move, and good play after good play. Your rating rises and rises and rises. And then towards the mid game, and you have your decision tree. Okay, there's one option here where you group up as 4 people and you're just sitting outside their tower, not gaining any further advantage, or you're dragon stacking on time, or you're going after X other win condition, or playing side something like that. I think that's one of the reasons why League of Legends is so interesting, because there are so many of these decision tree points where they break off and you can make correct decision after correct decision for so long. But then the longer the game gets, the more complicated